What's up, friends? Mike here, and I am joined by Jesse, aka Doncabesa. How you doing, Jesse?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm feeling great. Thanks. And last but not least, I am also here with OneBadMotha. How you doing, Abe?
I I am Super Mike. Thanks for asking.
Awesome. So once again, we're back for another React video this time for E3 2005. And we chose E3 2005 because this was a turning point for Microsoft. It was the dawn of a new generation, something that is fresh in all of our minds today. And we're going to take a look back and see how Microsoft started off the 360 generation. So, do you guys recall where you're at when you watched this? Did you watch it live? Did you watch a recording afterwards? I'll let Jesse go first.
Jesse, you could talk first.
I was 2005, so I was 23. So it would have just been me and my brother, and we always had the internet. I don't remember exactly how this aired or where you watched it. I remember following like blog posts on IGN and stuff because they would do up to the minute news, but I don't remember if or where it aired. We always had TV, so I remember watching it. It was probably on Spike or something like that, and being both excited and a little worried that they didn't really show that much gameplay. Kind of the old tried and true Xbox chestnut, where they announced a lot, but they didn't have the most gameplay, and they weren't as good at selling it as Nintendo and Sony were. They were a very different company in the early 2000s than what they are now. Very different. I really, really did not like them. Like the personality of the company was very fake, corporate, hard to like for the most part, and really douchey. Yeah, I mean,
so this is like
they all were pretty bad.
This is tail
Peter
end.
Moore, you thought Peter Moore was douchey?
He was one of the few that I liked.
What about Jay Allard?
You didn't think Jay Allard and his like 4 layers of clothing was down to earth?
But like as a company, I did not like Microsoft at all back then.
Okay,
that's
all
fair.
right.
And it bled into the Xbox stuff. But yeah, so just a young guy working for Maytag, I think at the time, and we in our circle of friends were all, my cousin, everyone, we were all Xbox. Never really that big. We didn't get a PlayStation 2 until GTA 3 hit, and then I think we owned like 4 games for it total. So,
oh damn!
Always just gravitated towards the games that Xbox had.
What about you, Abe? Do you recall where you're at or how you saw this video or this E3?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's a little bit easier to remember where I was at. My daughter had actually born, my eldest, my first, was born 2 months after this. So she was, she was next to me rocking while I was trying to set records in Geometry Wars back in those days. So
I was afraid that you were going to say my daughter was born this day.
No, I did not this day. So she'd be born a couple months later. But I do remember this also because I was actually one of those Xbox people right from the get go. You know, we talked about it before on the Halo show that I jumped in with, probably a couple weeks into the OG Xbox, and after playing a Halo demo, and that was my main platform. So coming into this, I was all in. But the thing I do remember is what was really interesting, kind of leading up to this, is even though Microsoft did come off finally having a good year in gaming, because Halo 2 gave it a lot of momentum, and that was the first E3 that we focused on. Was the Halo 2 reveal. I think it did start to catch on with the mainstream, but PlayStation was still 6-1, and right before this there was an MTV show that really didn't land super well. That was with Elijah Wood, and I remember the number one, the thing that they were using to recruit all the casuals to come watch that show was The Killers. And I just remember how annoyed everybody, all the gaming enthusiasts were, and even those that liked the band, because it seemed like back then they weren't focused enough on using gaming to recruit. Where did we hear that before? Using gaming to kind of recruit gamers. But that show didn't hit really well. Perfect Dark was the thing everybody was looking forward to. We expected it to be the next Halo, because Perfect Dark on the N64 was one of the best received games of all time, and it was now a Microsoft exclusive and a launch title, and I think we were expecting big things. And coming off that MTV show, they showed a quick glimpse of it. They showed some multiplayer. It did not look very good. I think a lot of people were really let down from that. And so coming into this, I think a lot of people felt like this was a E3 they couldn't miss, and we've heard that before, right? Like, it's like they got to bring it this time. Every E3, if they don't bring it this time, they're dead.
Yeah.
I feel like that's been. There's only been a handful where it's not been like that, and this was definitely one of those.
If 2013 couldn't kill them, nothing can.
E3 is the Talladega Nights of video game shows, where if you're not first, you're last. And
right.
And did they have like a pseudo, like, Perfect Dark Zero match at the end or something? Or did they just show clips?
No, they had a match. They had a match, and I do remember this. That if anybody gets a chance, go back and watch. Well, don't watch the whole thing. It's not that good of a show. But I remember they had a match, and I think it was live. And all I remember is like this one guy was just like really like on live camera was really angry he lost.
I think I remember that. I think, and I remember watching that with my buddy, because I didn't have cable at the time, so I went to my buddy's house and we watched it at his place. And obviously we were both disappointed, but even then, I understood where they were going at with it, because E3 was for the enthusiasts, right? Whereas MTV and that show in particular was for, I guess, the quote-unquote mainstream, if you want to call it. And so, they were kind of trying to take, from what I understood it, or how I saw it back then, is they were taking like a two-pronged approach. They were going to have your mainstream, your wider appeal, and then I was hoping that they were going to tackle the hardcore during E3, and we're going to see how well they did there. But
it's almost like the exact same strategy as now. They got the Series X for the enthusiasts, you got the Series S, and pushing mobile cloud for the casuals. It's always been like the same goal. It just feels like they finally have a good way to reach it. Because what was the Xbox One? A really hard push for the casuals with Kinect, because Kinect for the 360 worked well. They didn't find the balance.
Yeah, and the key difference between the 2013, the 2005, and what we have now is the messaging, right? Like their messaging is much more on point. The much more, we know what device or what platform, let's say, is meant, kind of targeted for what demographic, and whereas that wasn't as clear cut in the past. But yeah,
the one big thing that bridges everything is value. Both the enthusiast and the mainstream, when you give them really good value for everything, like that's the best message that they can come up with the way that they're perceived in the enthusiast community and the way they're perceived in even the casuals, where Nintendo is Nintendo, PlayStation is this massive thing. Well, what can Xbox be? Okay, I bought a system for $300, and now for 3 months, like I was at my in-laws yesterday, and they have an Xbox One, and they finally got internet, and I loaded up and I set everything up and had it all ready for them, because it would be the easiest way for them to use apps, because apps on TV suck. So they had the Xbox One for those apps. They've got, I was like, oh yeah, you can get Game Pass. They're doing 3 months for $1 right now. He's like, oh, here you go. Had me sign up, and then immediately I go through a list of 400 games, and they're like, I can play any of those?
Yep.
You know,
Right there
this
where
is
you
so different than what this was.
You just made me think about. I'm going to wait because I forget how this show goes. You made me think about how they tried to split that difference and the 360.
Oh.
There's some things that it's. There were some
there's
big
some things in
things
this
back
video.
then that I completely forgot about. So this would be kind of fun.
And
to go back
They
I'd say
weren't backed fully. That was always the thing. It was like they were the Windows company. They weren't like a services or gaming company, and it always shone through in what they did.
You know what they sounded like a lot of times is like I don't know about any of your parents. Like when we used to have our friends come over, my mom would try to talk cool in front of my friends. That's how Microsoft executives sounded sometimes. They get up there with gaming and they try to, they try too hard to go cool. But no, I think you look back at it now, and I think it is going to be kind of endearing. I do think that the interesting thing is you look back at that generation and how fondly people remember it, and and just the fact that even the people that look at it very fondly, I think a lot of them were not that invested in this. Most people were expecting to still get the PlayStation 3 at this point in time. We didn't know we were going to need 2 jobs or 3 jobs or whatever yet, and so coming into this, this was kind of like the Xbox enthusiasts. This is their shot, and they figured if they didn't hit this shot, they weren't going to have any chance, because the expectation was most people were still going to. And we'll talk about this more as we get into like the 2006 one, but really in 2005, I think the expectation, even after E3 was over, was, this is really the PlayStation's generation again. So it'd be interesting to kind of see how that changed
later. Yeah, for them, because you look back with the benefit of hindsight. You look back and how badly Sony messed up. You didn't know that immediately after the show. You're like, oh, this is a pretty good show. They got a lot of things they showed that I'm interested in, but it wasn't like some huge slam dunk in my memory. So it's going to be.
Are we talking about 2005?
Go back through. Yeah, 2005.
We'll talk about that
time,
after the
Sony
show.
hadn't messed up yet. So they were on their way. But
I can't wait to talk about that.
My memory of this time was I feel good about Xbox, but I didn't think they were going to actually have the lead for the majority of the upcoming generation.
I didn't. I thought they were dead. But anyways.
I didn't either. And just like you guys, I primarily leaned on Xbox, and that didn't really have anything to do with Xbox per se, just because, like every generation I had my like primary console, if that makes sense. I've always been a multi-console owner. But like coming off the Dreamcast, I had to find something that replaced the Dreamcast, really. And I was gonna. Did I have a PlayStation 2 then? No. We got the PS2 after I got the Xbox. But once Panzer Dragoon Saga or Orta and Dead or Alive 3 were announced for Xbox, it was like okay, and then Shenmue 2 being announced for North American exclusive, that seals the deal for me. And but yeah, like I still had a PlayStation 2, played all the great, like, and the PlayStation 2 for me was the exclusive box. That's what like the backup or the secondary console has typically been. I mean, thankfully though, the PS2 had shit ton of exclusives and a lot of them great. But like I remember I was at my buddy's house and we watched the stream. It might have been like on IGN or GameStop spot. But I remember watching the stream for this at his place, basically huddled around his CRT monitor, and it was interesting. Like the whole thing with MTV was one thing, but this was like the put up or shut up moment kind of, and like it's interesting, let's say, and the only thing I would really say about Microsoft at E3 2005 is they were almost too honest, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because
and we'll have to talk about that when the show gets over. But I do remember that was a thing.
Sony they went big, and I didn't for a second believe that like the Killzone video was real time. I didn't believe any of that stuff was real time. But still, they had a lot of momentum, and truth be told, their early demos and videos and stuff for the PS2, they exceeded with with real games. during the generation. So I didn't believe that Killzone 2 was real time, but there was still like the question in the air: could the PS3 match that level of fidelity or graphics, especially since the cell processor was a thing? I mean, at this point, rumors have been flying for a while now regarding, you know, the Xbox 360 and the PS3. So it's really interesting how it all played out. But I'm definitely ready to get the show on the road if you guys are.
Yeah, let's do it.
Absolutely.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, play.
Play. Still a nice looking system.
They show the, what do you call it, the teleprompter. Now, see, I think this is probably like some of what you're talking about, Jesse, with the corporate angle.
Hello.
They want it to be cool at times.
It was almost forced. Or not even almost.
It's a future where I am
And it was always entertainment, and it wasn't just gaming.
My friends. It's a future where my games are always personalized to match my desires.
Well, this can't work.
Where those games connect me
You
to
can
the
tell,
people and
though,
experiences
that
I care about most.
their ambitions were far
That
greater
future starts
than
right here.
like the core demographic. Because one, again, you know, like we mentioned earlier, they did the whole
Was that
E3.
the first time we saw it? I forget. We didn't see it at the MTV thing,
This
did
is
we?
my
I don't remember.
Xbox
Maybe?
360. It's here and it's on.
And it's on.
Oh, and it's red ringed. Damn.
I do remember that. The look of that thing at the time. That's probably the first console the only console that the first time I ever saw it, I immediately liked the looks of it.
Here it is. Like, remember the last E3 where they had the dancing and stuff, and I was talking about Master Chief and stuff? This is what I was referring. This is what I was referring to.
Yeah.
Like they.
Yeah, this is
the blades. You know,
We might have to talk a lot so that this doesn't get copyright striked if it's a song that's actually from someone. So, boop-a-doop-a-doop.
You're coming through real low there, Jesse.
Oh, I'm just saying, if this is a DMCA-able song, we might have to keep talking so that YouTube doesn't pick it up. Doot doot.
Can you hear?
Doot 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 doot.
He's
Bop bop
muffled.
boop.
Yeah, you're coming through real muffled and.
Oh, how about now?
Okay.
You're good now.
I had to turn the volume of the video down. But funnily enough, I was literally saying, if this is a DMCA-able song, you might have to mute it for this.
Hopefully
we
not.
got
I mean,
copyrighted
hopefully us
for,
talking over it is enough.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I kept trying to talk over it. Because that happened with the Rumors song on the podcast this week. We didn't talk over it enough, and it got hit, so I had to mute that segment.
It wasn't a strike, was it?
No, it's a claim where you can't monetize, but not a strike against the channel. They're not that terrible yet. They're not Twitch. Yeah.
You hear me, John? I don't care about your claims.
Man, the 80s held up so much better entertainment-wise for me than than most of the 90s, and definitely the early to mid 2000s do.
Please welcome Robbie Ball, Jay Allen,
Oh, hello.
Peter Moore.
You know,
I will say, as kind of cheesy as some of the stuff is, it is endearing to kind of watch now.
I love it. I absolutely.
It brings back good nostalgia, man. I mean, I guess it's different. My daughter was born around this time, but like all this stuff is just kind of brings back some good feels, man.
You guys check out those borderline bell-bottom pants from Peter Moore.
There's his 4 layers. I told you he wears like 4 layers of clothes. Look, he's got a jacket out over top of a hoodie.
He's got a hoodie, a jacket, and a shirt underneath.
That floor they're standing on, that must have been a lot of money because TVs really sucked back then. It's like 90 CRTs or really early LCDs just all stuck together.
surrounded by limitless,
But, you know,
connected digital entertainment.
as much as the 360 was, I don't want to say
Tonight,
rushed,
I'm going to show you
but let's say
a world
untested.
of games that are fueled by high-definition
It
graphics
is
and
interesting
sound.
to
A world powered by a new generation of video
how
games,
much they had,
inspired
like,
by
the
human
UI,
creativity
everything
and driven
together at
by
this
human
point, right?
energy.
Like,
It is
they
a world
pretty much,
where our partners
outside of a
will
few
create
things that
unbelievable game
we'll come to when they
experiences
get to it,
that will transform the
pretty
very
much
idea of
everything
entertainment.
that they showed here was at launch.
Tonight we stand at a watershed moment.
Now,
I did like Peter Moore and Jay Allard. They were
yeah. Now, who?
they bring back good memories.
This
Who
is
is
the guy
here?
I was more thinking of when I said it earlier.
What'd you say earlier?
It's not even like a negative thing. It's just that there was this air about Microsoft that
Yeah.
always rubbed me the wrong way.
And you're not entirely
I heard
wrong.
he was actually really good for Xbox. So I think Phil Spencer still talks really highly of.
In the next
Oh, yeah.
It was
Giving-
just the
giving
feeling
them,
of the
like, the
company,
atta-
not like anyone actually individually.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he gave them a lot of autonomy, and I think when they go under Windows shortly after this, I think they start to lose a lot of that.
Now we've traveled a
So,
long ways
The
So
dark
he
days.
was actually pretty good for the company.
Who
For the
is
game.
what now? Like, who's the Phil Spencer now? Is that Peter Moore is the Phil Spencer, right? He was the top dog, was he?
Yeah, I can't remember how Peter Moore and Jay Allard, how they.
I thought Jay Allard was the
Yeah.
platform, like Xbox
Yeah, I think-
Live
I think you're right.
dashboard. I don't know what I honestly
you're
don't
right,
know
you're
what
right.
Robbie Bach was all about. The business side,
I think he was the boss, but he had the final say on everything. So he's probably what Phil Spencer is today.
oh, Robert Bach
4 years
was.
ago,
But I thought he did more than
He
that.
was the president of Entertainment and Devices
Yeah.
Division at Microsoft.
Okay, so Robbie
Yeah,
Bach was
yeah.
the Phil Spencer, and then
Yeah.
so that means that Peter Moore was the
3 years ago,
first
we announced
party
our
or
plans to
games
expand
guy,
gaming
right?
Through the power of online
Yeah.
gaming.
That makes sense.
Today I'm delighted to announce that at the end of next month, 2 million subscribers will be online. with
He'd
Xbox
eventually be
Live.
replaced
Million
by Don
subscribers. 2 million subscribers on Xbox Live. Like,
Holy crap! Was that? That is a.
An unbelievable ecosystem of partners.
well, I mean,
And-
Xbox Live had a gradual increase, and then it kind of skyrocketed when Halo 2 came out.
Together, we've built
Well, think about that. You think about the people that are like, well, there's only 15 million or whatever, to 18 million or whatever the number is for Game Pass. It's like,
technology companies.
or now it's 22 or what, something in that range. But it.
Now, ultimately,
Wow.
I mean, to be
our
fair,
go for it.
rooted in games.
to be fair to back
And
then,
Xbox is setting new standards.
online
for
subscriptions weren't
franchises
really a
like
thing.
Splinter Cell,
This is before Netflix.
Yeah.
This is before
Right.
all of that
They were setting a new
Knights of the Old Republic,
trend.
new paradigm at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, PC people were still pissed because it had always been free for them, but it always kind of sucked.
Hey,
So-
hey, it's gonna be free again, PC people.
are Xbox.
You're gonna have your day.
And gamers can expect more than 200 new Xbox titles this year, with hundreds more in 2006 and beyond.
200
So let's take a look at some
Xbox
of the new
titles in 1
coming
year.
to
Now we get
Xbox
thousands of
2005.
games a year.
Right.
You know, like that's like almost as bad as Stadia numbers.
Now we get 200 announced at a damned E3 the past few years.
Oh, Half-Life 2. The
I
first time
remember
I
that
played
game that
through
never
Half-Life
finished.
2 was on the Xbox.
Oh, this is their
Xbox.
OG Xbox send off. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
it was a show
remember
racing
playing
game.
MotoGP on Xbox Live. I got that with my starter kit.
I
Ultimate.
never played these Spider-Mans.
I never played this one. I played most of the others.
Full Spectrum Warrior. and
NBA
the-
2K.
Oh,
Yep.
man.
NBA 2K6 is the only game my account has 1,000 out of 1,000 gamer score on.
You know what?
I
yeah,
remember-
Hey,
I have
Blood
one
Money.
too. Like, you were able to get them almost... If you try,
There's only 5
especially like
achievements. I think
two-player,
my
you can
brother
do it
did it
all in
all.
one match, right?
Because there was only 5 total in that game. And I'm pretty sure my brother got all of them within like a day of owning it or something crazy.
I remember that.
Man, we got to bring back games like Blitz.
EA was... There's like a rumor about EA bringing back like their big lineup and type of stuff. So Maybe.
Man, I didn't play any of these damn
No.
games.
I mean, these were all
They're too
kind
damn
of,
expensive.
you know, the last gen.
This game I heard was decent.
I played
was
the
looking forward to
prequel,
that, and I never bought it.
the original
played it.
Kingdom Under Fire. I love that.
Oh, Stubbs the zombie. That's that.
Blam. Oh, Battlefield 2.
I didn't really care for this.
Yeah.
I was disappointed they didn't like port Battlefield 2 from the PC.
Yeah, because the Battlefield 2 on the PC is like the first time I really fell in love with that series.
Oh,
Conquer.
that was a good. That looked.
I
pretty.
never played Conquer until it was
Appreciate it.
on Rare Replay. There you go.
Burnout was an amazing franchise.
Yeah.
That's one they need to bring back.
Didn't they
It
already
was,
show
it was
Blazing
hard because you
Angels?
had to. No, it was a different one. Yeah, it was another flying game. Oh, there you go. That game's great.
Exactly.
The Hulk one.
Hulk.
Yeah, Ultimate
I
Destruction.
always wanted to play it. I didn't realize how. Like I only heard good things about it after the fact. Time Shift. Do you guys remember this? This got delayed.
I remember the name, but I never played it. Hey, this just came out.
Wait, Destroy All Humans came out after the 360? Some of these games must have come out before. Like, this is just a...
Yeah, I don't know if it's a reel of stuff that had just come out or was
No, some of these were still going to come out to the OG Xbox.
I remember Tomb
God.
Raider Legends was just coming out because it was a 360
The interesting thing back then, I think at that point in time, I started to save my money for 360 games. I wasn't buying anything on the OG Xbox unless it was going to be. I think Jade Empire was like one of the few end
one of the
of
last ones.
generation games I bought.
Jade Empire.
Because you had to get ready for the next generation, and all this stuff looked like it was old after you saw it with the the next gen stuff.
Look how small. It's like letter and pillar boxing. Like it's the size of a postage stamp. I just realized that. But yeah, Jade Empire, Half-Life 2, and Doom. Those are like some of the few games that I played.
And it doesn't stop there.
We weren't big into sports, so I always got the 2K sports games.
By 2006, we'll have double the number of games on Xbox Live, and together we'll continue to sell Xbox games by the billions.
You know, Xbox Live and Halo is why the 360 was. I knew I was still going to be my preferred console going into the next generation.
Well, I knew plenty of people that still played Halo 2 primarily online, even after the 360 launch. They just played it in backwards compatibility mode.
It's funny. I still have friends from the launch of the Xbox Live in 2002.
I have
no friends for me.
Yeah.
So that brings us to Xbox 360. Our team has worked with passion and commitment to build the most powerful game platform in history. And Xbox 360 will drive category growth for the entire video game industry.
Ooh, category growth.
Create an increasingly profitable worldwide business for our
He's
partners.
talking to the investors.
I love the...
Yeah, that's what E3 really was.
Well, yeah, back then, E3 was still primarily targeted towards like investors and retailers.
Sony was still doing a lot of slides and stuff, right? I remember.
Yeah, they were. You're right.
Like that was a whole
It's too
part
bad.
of, like,
It's
06
too bad we're not watching that
boring
one back
it
to
was.
back. That
Are there no
was
slides in this?
yeah. There's a lot of.
They kind of had slides.
I remember
they had like Xbox Live off to the side numbers and stuff like that.
Yeah, not the same. You didn't get the bar charts.
Yeah. I gotta say, I
didn't
do
feel
like
like you were
the,
at a corporate meeting.
I'm sorry?
It didn't feel like I remember the older ones. If you ever saw a video of it, really felt like you were just in a corporate seminar.
We built Xbox 360.
I like the 20-something-year-old models in the background
That dream is to inspire
that
people to think about
have their back turned towards the screen.
to revolutionize the way people think about having fun.
Oh.
Now, at its core, Xbox 360 is a great game console.
Overheats.
And Itagaki San Antonio have always been at the forefront of delivering what a platform can deliver and what great games can achieve. Ladies and gentlemen, Dead or Alive 4 exclusively on Xbox 360.
Yes, man. I was so pumped for this.
Tecmo was a big
Yeah,
partner.
this is when
in this back
Itagaki was
then.
there to say, hey, we should be on Xbox. And then he left, and now they're not on Xbox at all anymore.
You know, it's interesting looking back because, you know, next gen was this huge thing. We were all expecting these huge leaps, and this trailer did not really impress. Like it didn't really give off like the best first impressions, but ironically, little did we know that it would still be one of the best looking like best looking fighters the entire generation. You know, in some ways, it looks better than DOA 5 on the same system. And
No, you're right. The irony of it is, you're right, because this didn't seem like a huge step up over what we saw on the OG Xbox, right? Like this
No,
Those jiggles and
especially after Dead or Alive 2 Ultimate came out shortly before this. I want to say maybe the
Right.
winter before this, and that looked absolutely amazing. And that was almost part of the problem where the Xbox, the OG Xbox, was pushing some really impressive things at the end of the life cycle. You know, you look at games like Dead or Alive 2 Ultimate, you look at Splinter Cell Chaos Theory, you look at Doom 3. You know, I mean, it was kind of a peak of what would become standard at this next generation.
But you know, what's interesting is this style does hold up. Like if I were to play
Yep.
this today, I wouldn't think it's ugly or
Yeah, the stylized
looks
look
outdated.
really.
and that's always the tough thing when you're going for photorealism is it doesn't hold up.
Yeah,
Well, that's what we talked about that with the Halo stuff, right? Like just, you know, sometimes that's the more realistic you try to go, the quicker it ages. You know, the hyper stylized sometimes holds up a little bit.
it's interesting how they mix in pre-rendered scenes with the real time, and even though this is supposed to be real time, it was still the final game was still downgraded in some ways from this trailer. Like Bass, the wrestler, his shoulder fur or whatever the hell, his neck fur on that suit, it wasn't all furry. It was more of a poofy texture, you know, like so like downgrades were a thing even back then. Some things never change.
Well, they tried to change it with Halo Infinite, and people lost their mind. They're like, we're not going to fake anything. And then blew up in their face. God, the outfits are always so
If I remember
dumb.
correctly, it says Xenos or Xenon. Yeah, Xenon. That was the.
Oh, that's right. That was the code name for
Yeah.
the 360, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally forgot about that.
The early code name for the 360 was C1, if I remember correctly, and then Xenon was the later one. I think Xenon may have also been the name of the CPU, and Xenos was the name of the GPU. I could be wrong on all that. In the chat or in the comments, definitely let me know how wrong I am. It's nice that they're not like, I don't know, heavily sexualizing the girls in this. Well, actually, I say that
Every
after
boob
the
has been jiggling. The friggin' other one had just a jacket barely covering her boobs. There's been plenty.
yeah, no, I was gonna say there was also that wrestler that was like
Yeah.
shaking her thing.
That was
I take it
definitely
back. I'm sorry.
Itagaki.
Itagaki was
Yeah,
still big
it-
then.
He was. He definitely was.
I still think Microsoft should swoop him up because he started another studio.
Yeah.
I don't know
they
what
made
Valhalla
they made a
studio-
game that
Huh?
their games haven't been. His games haven't been great since he left.
No, but I want to say that budget and resources has been the main issue there because his last good game is Ninja Gaiden 2, and he made that game when he had one foot out the door from Tecmo. And
Yeah.
so, like he hasn't really been given the same amount of resources or time since DOA 4. Or no. After this, there was DOA Volleyball 2.
Yeah, it
Which
would
is
be
a
interesting
very
to see what he
quality,
can do.
polished title.
Once again, Team Ninja has taken Dead or Alive and gaming to the next level. This is a kind of first-day experience you can get.
Yeah, this is supposed to be a launch
Blazer
game.
over a
Best game
sweater.
creators in the world and arm them.
Huh?
with
It's
great
a hoodie.
software,
Yeah, he's
amazing
wearing a
hardware,
blazer
and
over the hoodie.
world-class service.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's been a lot
blazer
of
over the
discussion
hoodie,
recently about when
and
the
the
next
orange
generation
shirt that
of
you can
video
see.
Man, I shoulda-
underneath it.
Boy.
It begins
I wish I had a
right now.
blazer and hoodie. I'd be
It
wearing that
begins
right now for this.
year, and you just saw it with
And
your
those
very
pants
own eyes.
are too
And there's
big.
plenty more
Yeah, you need
Oh,
to
yeah.
get those
This
hemmed.
year we'll have between 25 and
This is
40
back in the day
titles
with, was
ready
Jinko
to
still
Can't
a
show that
thing
you
back
care too
then?
much.
Xbox 360.
What
Were
now?
baggy pants in 2005? I don't remember.
We
I
already
just
have
wore normal
160 titles in
jeans.
development.
That was it.
I wore
That's
baggy
like all I
pants
owned.
back then.
360 signals
But that was
to him
because I was
as important
I
as
bought
heavier.
one pair of Jinkos,
in the industry today.
and my best friend's mom
30
looked at me and
years
goes,
ago,
"What
we
the
set
hell
a
are you
mark for this
wearing?"
industry.
And then right
They
there, I
were
was like,
all
"Yep, this ain't gonna
the
work for
first
me."
ID games. Games that appeal
I
to
tried.
everyone. They found a very broad audience that numbered in the tens of millions. And we all remember those great ads from that era, where entire families surrounded the TV on the couch playing games together.
That never
Well, then we made
happened.
the leap from 2D
I don't
to
think.
3D.
I think that's
And we
historically
expanded and
inaccurate.
jumped our industry past the 100.
I mean, those ads were there, but
that
they didn't
very
reflect
same
reality.
Right.
They were always bullshit.
Yeah,
I
to a
mean,
much more limited demographic. Today, we're poised to make the leap again. This time
with
3D
Kinect,
to
it'll
the
go
HD
well,
era.
and then boy, will version
Now,
2
of
not.
course, the HD era is about high-definition graphics.
No, you have to wait for
and
Don
unbelievable
Matrick to replace
sound.
Peter Moore
But the
for all that.
implications of the HD era are even more profound than that. It's about the ability to connect with your community.
Ugh, the
and to personalize
720p
your
era.
experience.
Ooh.
It's about unleashing the creative power of human energy.
HD.
If we work together,
You know, it's
to
funny. When I
create
went looking for new
experiences
TV,
that
I only
really
went up to
deliver on the
720
promise of the
because that's
HD
all
era.
the 360 went up
As an
to.
industry, we'll
Yeah,
take
we
risks
had a
that
47-inch
never
rear
been
projection tube TV that I had to like calibrate the red, green, and blue every week on to make it so they wasn't ghosting everywhere. That was 720p.
Oh,
Got it
wow.
for the 360.
Wait, what is this?
This
1
is a great
million?
industry. It's a great business.
What's
Our
it saying there on the
revenues keep
sides?
growing
1
faster
million?
than music, than movies,
Peasants.
than
I missed it.
We're at the cutting edge of technology and the leading edge
Yeah,
of imagination.
I got a
But we used to fill the
Samsung
living room with kids and adults, men and women. But today,
1080i
we're relying mainly on one type of
CRT. It took my
Now, don't get me
best
wrong,
that
we
same
love
best
that
friend,
guy, the
my
18,
dad, and I to
34-year-old
carry it up to
He's
my
the
bedroom
backbone of the
because that
I
thing was
remember those.
just
With
a
guys
They
like
were-
brick.
Dead or Alive 4,
Yeah,
And-
They were
that TV I
like
had
Team
was
Deadlands,
probably
yeah.
220 pounds. It was ridiculous.
But 360 is also the
And
product
it
that's gonna push gaming
it died
into the
13 months
mainstream.
after I
The
got it.
product that will
Ru-
fill
1
that
month
space
after
with
the
people
warranty
from
let
every
up,
demographic and from every market.
and then I got my
How in the world are we gonna do
720p
that?
LG
Well, it takes
LCD
a product with clear,
that is still in my
compelling
bedroom
vision,
now. Still
a
works
vision
perfectly well.
that
It's
living
amazing.
entertainment is powered by human energy.
And the interesting
Xbox
thing is,
360 is that
Oh,
product.
I
Matrix
remember
battery.
this. This was like if there was Twitter and memes back then.
At the
Remember
same
the
time,
powered by human energy? Like
yeah,
how much
there would have been a
crap they got
hashtag
for
human
that?
energy.
but if the entire
Was the
Twitter or
Matrix
something.
coming out soon? Because I mean, those were literally
next
they were human
generation,
energy
1 billion
batteries
people will
in the
play our
Matrix.
games. And it's not just because they figured out
I
the
guess
way
that's
to
what
combo.
Jay Allard
They
is,
figured out how to get past
an
level
agent.
14. But because we've unlocked the secret to creating games and entertainment experiences that they can call their own. Games that provide entertainment experiences that appeal to everyone. We've been working for years to fulfill this vision. And the result is
executive-
Xbox 360. It's the product I've always dreamed of creating. It's the product that will fill the living room back with people who can't wait to get their hands on the controller, to get into the game, to be part of the excitement, and to join us in the
to
community.
trash
That's
talk
not
like
gonna-
mad
They
in
wanna
Call of
bring their own
Duty.
creativity to the experience
Yeah,
and pay
what
it
he's
off
saying isn't going to
to the
happen
promise
until
of
they
our
launch
community.
Kinect. That's when they really
The
introduce the
essence of our
family
vision is reflected
into the
in
360.
Xbox 360.
It is funny that when you look
It's
back
the
at this
product
generation, the
that
biggest
delivers
selling game was
experiences where
the
player
Kinect Sports one.
is always at
It was like
center
27
stage.
million.
You can see the essence of the vision in the console itself.
I don't
We
know
redesigned
that.
Xbox 360.
Well, I mean, at least
We
that was a
wanted to
decent
create
game.
physical presence
Mhm.
that would be
Yeah,
truly
no,
international.
the first Kinect had a lot of
Collaborated with
really
two of the
good
best and most
software
innovative
on it.
design
It didn't
firms in
work the
entire
best.
world.
Kinect 2 worked better, but then didn't get the good software. It had some good, like Dance Central Spotlight was fun, and there were some things, but you could just see the commitment for that type of stuff really nosedive after the backlash of the initial showcase.
Our hopes for the medium through its brightness and its optimism. It's a product that'll be
It's interesting
worldwide
how
in sensibility,
they
yet
intentionally
timeless in its
went
appeal.
with the complete opposite direction of
When we
the OG
started the
Xbox.
console,
The OG
the
Xbox
unity
was
of our
black,
vision
it
extends
was
to the
bulbous,
entire
it was a
family
giant
of
brick,
products.
whereas this was
All
white,
operate
it was
No, I
sleek.
remember all
No
this
matter
stuff.
where you put 'em.
Yep. Faceplates. Like this
family
this
includes
looked
a
like
wireless
something that
control
you would have thought
that finally
if Apple would have
untaps
come out with a
gamer from the
console, this is
console.
kind of what you would have
Yeah.
expected to
Even
see,
with
right?
batteries, it'll be
This was
lighter
more of
this-
an
The
Apple type
D-pad.
and more
look
comfortable
instead of a
than today's
Microsoft
Xbox
look.
controllers.
It was a good look. I think
Yeah.
they really did a good job on the
Let's sit down and,
for the
It
time.
was-
That was a good, nice.
It was
look.
just the engineering on the inside that was the issue.
Oh yeah, they cut too many
Yeah, yeah.
corners.
right here you hit the Xbox guide button.
And considering, I
You
mean,
launch the user interface
I'm not
with
excusing
the
it,
HDR.
but considering because they were losing
It's an
what,
interface that's clean,
like $80 per console or
consistent,
something.
customizable.
It was a hefty amount.
Another click.
Not as
Yeah.
not nearly as much as Sony, but it was still a hefty
Oh,
amount.
the blades.
And all of your
Remember the
entertainment.
blades?
Yeah,
Here's my gamer card. Today everybody
There's
at
more
Xbox
good
Live
feelings.
has friends listed a game
They should
set.
just bring him back just
But
for the sake
this
of
time we're going to take it to the next level. with new
you know,
the warm and fuzzies. They come
in
with
some
the blades.
ways,
Kinda like
You can set
online
Oh,
your
there he
background
is,
to look
sitting on
like
the
him.
floor.
Your reputation,
in some ways they
the zone you
they
like
didn't
to
bring
play
back the
in your
blades,
body.
but the same principle
With zones,
applies
you're gonna be
where
able to match up
you
with
have your
players
different
who have
tabs. I mean, the
style of
blades were
play
basically
that
tabs,
matches up
right?
with yours.
They were just
So whether
vertical
you're in the
tabs
family zone or in the pro
that you're
zone,
cycling
you're
through.
guaranteed to match up.
Oh, you remember that? The family zone.
Oh yeah,
How did that
yeah.
ever?
They had so
How did
many
that ever
ideas.
go?
Called achievements.
So many ideas.
Now,
It's just
these are sort
like
of
that
a
looking for
record of
group.
everything
Looking for
across
group
the
seems to actually do
entire
something, but like they
library of
brought tournaments in, and
Let's say
they
you
always have
figured
these
out that-
really cool
that final
ideas that
achievement
only a
PDR3.
few of them ever seem to hit.
Just ask a friend
Yeah.
online.
Microsoft
The
is the
HDR,
best, one of the best
community,
version
and
2
connection is
companies.
critical.
Until you look at the Xbox
Even if
One.
I'm
But,
offline,
you know,
my friends can still
if we
find
look at the
you.
360 as the
Leave
version 2 of the OG
messages in the integrated
Xbox,
message
you know,
center.
that's where
Either with text, voice,
that
Ooh,
definitely
Velocity
applies.
Girl.
and
That
You
now
take
that
the
would have
One
been
X's
the
version
that,
to the
whether
one.
you're playing a game, watching a movie,
Yeah,
Even then the
yeah,
CPU
but
sucks,
that-
but
same
everything
thing.
else is
at
great.
any point in time, your friends are just
And then
guys
they
remember
actually finally
Velocity
nailed
Girl,
it
right?
with the series consoles.
Let's say you played
First
online
time.
with somebody that you'd like to reconnect
What'd you say,
with,
Abe?
but you forgot their game.
Velocity Girl. Do you see her on the
Xbox
screen?
360 universe, you can easily
I must
You don't remember
Missed her.
Velocity Girl? Oh man.
No, I
played with.
you know, it's
That,
interesting
that
because
was
that
the
did
other
not
thing
age
everybody
very
was talking
well.
about.
With Xbox
That was the thing
360,
that was the other thing
Live
everybody was
is gonna
talking about
offer
after the
something
show.
For everybody. We're going to make it easier and more accessible than ever before to join the community.
I have a confession.
Because on
I'm-
Xbox 360,
The way my hand, I have
Xbox
pretty big
Live
hands.
will offer a
Never
free
really liked the
level of
360 controller.
service directly
It just
out of the
didn't.
box.
It didn't feel great in my hand. I like the Duke because I have huge hands and it was a big
Yeah,
controller.
I love the
You
Duke.
heard it right.
The
Yeah,
only
and
thing,
then
the
they
only thing I
finally-
didn't like about the Duke was the D-pad. It was too jelly.
Yeah, and then the
So I
360
had-
D-pad was yeah.
And if
Oh,
you want
the-
to supercharge your
yeah, that was
experience,
garbage.
You can upgrade to gold.
But the
So you
I
can
had a
take
s-
advantage of additional services we'll be rolling out.
Xbox or
With
a
features
controller,
and
S
services
controller, I
like
guess, whatever
this,
they called it.
we're gonna
I used that for the
extend our
fighters because that the
and
D-pad on the
connect
S
over
controller
half
was
of the
excellent.
Xbox 360
I don't know how they dropped the ball
consoles
so bad on
to
the
Xbox Live.
360 controller.
1 billion people this generation. Well, that's a big number.
They keep on talking. There's that billion.
To do our
It-
part, we thought very
They've come back
No.
to it so many different
No.
ways.
product.
What a lot of people
A lot more market.
misconstrued this back in the day was they were going to sell they thought a lot of people thought they were saying that they're going to sell a billion consoles, where they were just really meaning they were going to reach a billion people. You know, when you consider that, you know, you could be a family of 6 and you all play on your 360, that's 6 people right
Right.
there.
That would blow the roof off gaming for our core audience.
It's good to shoot for the sun and land on the moon.
He's our hardcore gamer. the
Striker.
lifeblood of the
Hardcore.
Sometimes
Okay.
you shoot for the
He's our
sun.
OnlyFans gamer.
24 hours to get his hands
What was that, Jesse?
on the
Sometimes you-
Xbox release first.
They called him the hardcore
He's a
gamer.
fast twitch
So.
gamer who'll play
Yeah.
to master every level and
He's in the
every game
underground
before
zone.
he mixes it up
Real men
online
wear
with the best of
kilts
the
because he's
best.
from Scotland, speaks
Well, last
English.
generation, we opened a whole new set of universes. This experiences in a universe for gamers like Stryker.
Yeah, the way that they stereotyped gamers back then definitely has not aged very well.
Phil is really good at talking to people like people and not like characters or stereotypes.
And
Yeah.
hardcore gamers are going to love seeing the new features, like spectator mode.
And like all of them, Sarah Bond, Matt Booty, they're good at
Xbox 360.
talking normal.
There's no doubt in my mind, Xbox 360 is going to thrill the hardcore gamers that live and breathe video games.
Ooh.
But that's not going to get us to 1 billion. Not everyone is driven by the need to crush their opponent on the field of battle.
Some of them want to dance with Han Solo.
And the non-gamers
Oh, that'll be in a few years.
We don't speak about that.
We all know someone like her.
Oh, here she
She
is.
might pick up a controller every once in a while over a friend's house.
There she is.
But really, gaming's not a central
What's up,
part of her
Microsoft? Why does she
existence.
only have 950 gamer points?
It's an important question that we've struggled with in this industry.
And only
for the
2
last
stars.
20
Because she spent.
How do we get
Man,
the
people hate her.
velocity
Jeez.
Yeah.
They didn't even have Twitter back then to keep people in.
Velocity
occupied.
shit talker, I
With
guess.
Xbox 360, we have an answer. She's going to rejoin us because we're delivering a fresh set of services designed to nurture community.
See, this never happened, did it? Like they're going to start
We're going to
selling.
deliver
Yeah, this is
Create
one
a
of the
new
things that never.
marketplace.
on demand
It never
for the Xbox
appeared.
Live Arcade.
No.
Whether
Hey,
retro,
great idea,
puzzle,
but
or just plain old time
I
killing
mean,
games like Solitaire, we're going to
I can only imagine
assortment of games available.
the
So whether you wanna
monetary
stare down your
logistics
brother on
behind it
Texas
all
Hold'em
in
match,
regards to
or
tax
get
and
free
how are
buddies
you
from
going
college
to
and
pay
play a
those
little
people.
gauntlet.
And then
Live
that's
Arcade is
not
just
even
gonna be a
including
price away.
the tools, right? Like
We got
you're going to
something else
put
in
the
mind.
onus on the
We
developers
call
to
it the
create these
Xbox Live
tools
Marketplace.
in their
The
game
marketplace is
to
gonna
create the
introduce
content
gamers to the
so that
latest
these gamers can
entertainment
create the
through trailers
content and
demos.
upload it
They're gonna
to the
drive into
marketplace.
store
Like
and pick
it
up the latest titles.
there are too many
It's going to deepen the gamer engagement with games that they
There are too many
already
moving-
play
or
and
not-
already love. With
too much red tape, I
content.
guess. I don't know
You'll
how to
see new
describe it,
maps,
but
new levels,
You just do
new
like Valve,
weapons,
you just
new
ignore it all.
cards, much
And
more.
then people
But
just
maybe
use your
most
site for
exciting,
money laundering and you
the
don't give a crap.
marketplace is going to be a way to get
But like the Microsoft points and all that, I barely ever bought DLC because I
Because on
hated the
marketplace,
points system
she's
so
gonna be
much.
an active member of the community.
Instead of just being able to say, I want to buy this for $4, it's like, no, I have to have the.
Now, she
I
might never pick up
I
a
gotta buy 10
controller,
times as many
never take
points,
a
and then I
run
just
on
got
Yeah.
a bunch left over.
Oh,
Is
I
that-
remember that.
it was
yeah.
the
Yep.
it was the hot dog and hot dog bun model
Stickers,
where
shirts, boards,
you had to
soundtracks,
buy a
and
little
even
bit
design her
over,
own skate
so you would
parks.
always have like
Those
a
hardcore
little bit of
games like
points
Striker.
left over.
Yeah, they still
And-
do it in like Fortnite and sure we could buy V-Bucks and you can never buy the exact amount you want. And
Experiences that extend the very
Yeah.
idea of entertainment.
please,
And
I'm
you know,
surprised they got away with that back then. Because could you imagine if they tried to do something like that now? I just feel like
well, I mean, it's still in a lot of games, but yeah, it's
Is
not
it?
there at the system level.
Last generation,
But yeah, like
we led
V-Bucks,
the way with
I
voice
think the
chat over
currency in
Xbox
Dead by
Live.
Daylight,
that's
and
true.
This generation,
like you go
we're
over
gonna break
these, the
new ground
Robux.
again.
Robux
This
is the
time with
biggest
video
one,
chat
and
that's gonna let people
you
see
can't
and
just.
hear each other
I want to buy
at the
this
same time,
specific
whether
thing
they're
in
playing
Roblox.
games,
It's I have to buy $10 in
music,
Robux
or
to
watching
use the
photos.
$9 worth of Robux,
Velocity
and now I've got
Girl
an
is
extra
gonna
buck,
love Xbox
so I might as well
You
buy
know,
more.
But we're
to
not
be
stopping
fair,
there.
I guess to the Microsoft points,
Here's Beat Builder.
it was pretty easy to exploit.
Beat Builder's our
I mean, there was a lot of sales and stuff if you looked.
Lets the rest of the
What
world
are
know where the
why do all
world
these
is
people
headed.
only have 2 stars? You have a bunch of a-holes on
Beat
your
Builder's telling us is that very near
on your
Well, was rep?
conference here.
Was the old rep system? You started at 0 and you had to build it up, and so it wasn't that you were a
Yeah.
jerk. It's just that you weren't
Xbox
liked.
360
I
is
think,
perfect
like you hadn't
for
been
Beat
liked
Builder
enough to go
because
up.
it works
Not
with
that
everything.
you were hated,
It's
so
got
you went
games,
down.
It's got TV,
Yeah,
it's got
yeah.
music,
I-
movies,
maybe-
digital
He's a pro.
Did you
content,
even start at 2
online
stars?
music services.
You might have
I
started.
don't remember.
360 is gonna
What
connect
what category
to
did
a
you
world
guys
of
go
digital
into? Was it
entertainment
underground,
devices,
pro?
including hundreds of
Do you guys
mobile
remember
music
that?
players,
God, my brother always had the 360 in his room, so I'm
just
not
from
100%
PSP.
sure.
but, also from
They got a
some of our
PSP
competitors.
on the screen connecting to the 360. That is huge.
I don't recall ever selecting my
I think I was underground.
group.
I think we
Whatever
were underground.
whatever
too.
was
It's the
default.
ultimate digital
That's what I was.
entertainment amplifier for all these
I think- I
experiences.
wonder if default was
Amplifier.
pro.
Out of the box, it's a progressive scan DVD player that's going to make the movies in your library look
Ooh.
more spectacular.
A
than
progressive
ever
scan
before.
DVD
Progressive
player.
scan
Remember, it's going to keep you connected. It's
Now,
also
you know-
Oh, I totally forgot that was
show
that
off
was
your
one of the
big screen
big
TV,
price differences
photos in your
between.
living room.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Blu-rays were
Share 'em across
insane.
And remember, they sold the HD DVD thing
When
separately,
he's not
right?
playing
Yeah,
games,
yeah. It was a
Beat Builder's
$200
this digital amplifier
add-on.
to
But
open the
Yeah.
door
I remember liking
This-
HD DVD more than Blu-ray because
high-definition experiences.
Blu-ray back then was
He'll be able
so
to sample and purchase
slow.
content online. He'll be able to stream
it also
high-definition entertainment.
Blu-ray
stored on his media center
in the early
PC.
days also had
He'll be
teething
able to bring
issues that
his entire
HD DVD
experience
didn't,
to
where
life in his living room.
like a lot of movies, a lot of early Blu-rays were JPEG or not JPEG, MPEG 2, if I remember correctly. So like the codec was not as good as
Nope, keep talking. Blah, 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 blah.
yeah.
Gonna talk
But,
over this song
the
that
whole
they're playing
fact-
for way too long.
The whole fact that I think the only reason or the main reason they felt the need to point out that it was a progressive scan DVD player is because on the OG Xbox you had to buy a remote that came with a sensor.
Yeah.
And the only reason why they forced you to buy the remote is because when you paid for that remote, it paid for the DVD licensing. Because that way they didn't have to pay for the DVD license. Oh, you know what? That is kind of a preview
Go
of
Pats.
Xbox One. There's like an overlay, and you get an achievement or
You
an
also
invite.
had a touchdown.
Crazy.
You might have missed the invite. Only on Xbox 360 will your high definition.
God, it would be
entertainment
really funny if
experiences
somebody
always
accidentally
be
made those
connected.
rings up top red.
That's right.
I was thinking the same thing.
Purchase music, purchase movies online, and stream
I almost choked on my tea.
entertainment, whether
Show
it's
the damn
movies
Super Bowl
or
the
pro
Patriots won,
sports.
giving up a
All the
touchdown.
while, stay
Jerks.
connected to your live community. Connected to your community all the time in high def.
Oh.
Whoa.
Striker, Velocity Girl, Beat Builder. We're checking off the list. But
We're
these are
checking
some
off
of
the
people
list.
that we
We're
thought
getting them
about
all.
in our journey to build the
All three of them.
ultimate
What are those
entertainment
gamers?
product
They didn't
with
have
truly massive
custom
appeal.
pictures back then, did they?
It's really all about achieving the true.
They didn't
So
have
it
what?
looked like they were
By
combining.
working
So
together to reach a
when they
billion.
did the Xbox One reveal, they
And I promise
separated
you,
them.
we thought about everyone,
I wonder if it would have
and we
gotten
thought
any
all
better
about
if they would have done it like this and stuck all that stuff in the middle of E3. Because that was a lot of lot of stuff.
That was a good sketch. What do you guys think of it?
Alright, that's an interesting
Yeah.
demographic too. Billionaire software moguls.
The last time
Oh,
I
they cut
searched for
that
that
out, didn't they?
sketch online, you can't
What was
find
in
it
that?
anywhere.
It's
It
kind
was
of a
of
niche market, but I think we've pretty much got it sewn up.
Bill Gates and
Oh, Bill's right, of course. Without
who's the
amazing
developer,
hardware and
sweaty
software,
guy.
We've got unbelievable technology.
Sweaty
And this
developer.
unbelievable
Ballmer?
technology
No,
is
he wasn't
light
a
up the
developer.
imagination
He's the
of
one that took over
creators
from
and
Microsoft
not
after
the
Bill
sauce
Gates stepped down.
off a
Oh,
cup.
Ballmer.
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 Developers,
It was Ballmer.
developers. Yeah.
It was, that skit was Ballmer and Bill.
With XNA, we're
Kind of, I
satisfy
think
the
they were
needs of
poking
game
fun at
creators
Sony,
to make sure that they have the
or
best software,
something
best
along the
tools,
lines of
so that
creating
you get
a
the best
triple
of
core
games.
console to
We're also gonna
destroy
form
the enemy or
really
something.
bring the true potential of the HD era
But yeah,
home.
I tried searching it
And we're thinking
online.
about customers
I couldn't
more
find it.
broadly than ever before.
Whoa,
So together, Steve and
You-
Bill
you
are
went-
both
you went
right,
dark there,
because
Abe.
we've
Okay.
combined the hardware,
Sorry about that.
the software, and a world-class service to create the most powerful games platform ever created.
The most powerful
It's a platform
platform
that delivers
doesn't have to be the most
power and
powerful hardware if they're actually going to be a little stronger
It's a
than us.
platform we've
Little
been
do we know that
refining
they're actually going to
for years.
struggle mightily
And
because
a
it's so hard to
platform
code
that no
for.
other company in this industry
honestly, in a lot of
can
ways,
even try
they
to
were still
match.
more powerful. They had more
No, they
memory.
were.
The
Yeah, they
GPU was more
weren't
capable.
Sure, so they weren't saying it straight up.
Yeah, the seat, but, you know, like in these early days, they didn't even know. But like, it's interesting how well designed the 360 was, where it came out a year ahead, and the tools were much better, and the hardware was very, very capable. You know, the PS3
Well, they
obviously
had
had
feat-
some advantages, but the 360
They had
had
features
advantages as
in-
well.
Right. No, they had features in their GPU that weren't even out on the PC at the time, if you remember.
Yeah, no, this was the first commercial
like, it was
GPU
like-
that had unified shaders.
That
Like,
definitely
wasn't it?
didn't
It was
happen
like
with the
it was
one.
like a DX. Like, was it like a 9 point? So it was like in between whatever.
Yeah, it was like a
Was-
9.5. It wasn't full spec to DX10.
Yeah.
Like it didn't have. I think geometry shaders were introduced in DirectX 10. It didn't have
Geometry
anything like
shaders, those
geometry
are
shaders.
the secret weapon of the PS5, I've been told so many times.
But it will be a collector's piece.
The
What was
geometry
that?
engine.
Now, speaking of
Oh.
The whole, yeah.
create a one-of-a-kind
The geometry
that is
engine?
still the secret weapon, by the way, in case you're wondering, in the console warring forums.
Mr. Peter Moore, the beautiful.
Once the geometry engine hits the PlayStation 5, you can go.
No, I'm laughing at the hair club.
You're so funny. Hey,
Boy.
Now, see, these forced jokes are...
so to begin to understand the promise of
Nah.
the future of video games, think about some of the most absorbing experiences of your life.
Absorbing?
Like many of you in the audience this evening, I'm
Who
around.
describes an experience as
There's that
absorbing?
place that you can sometimes reach
Peter
a
Moore
point
is
where
allowed
you
to do that.
achieve a kind of perfect mind-body
You know,
equilibrium.
I
It's
was
been called the Zen of running.
a
The
longtime
HD
fan
era,
of Peter
we're gonna
Moore. You know,
deliver
coming off of
the Zen
Sega
of
again,
gaming.
going over to
Yeah.
Microsoft.
Next generation
Again,
games
OG
will provide
Xbox is like the
unprecedented
Dreamcast
audio
2.
and visual experiences
Right.
And
to create worlds that are beyond real. And
I was
they'll
really
deliver
disappointed when he
storylines
left.
and gameplay
I'm not going to lie.
so
Especially
compelling
when he was
that
replaced
it will
by
feel like living a lucid dream.
fucking Don Matrick.
The result is a state where you achieve
You know,
perfect
it's almost a shame
hard to
that we
say.
didn't watch E3 2004
and you become completely immersed
because that's when Don Matrick came on stage and they announced that EA games were joining Xbox
as an
Live.
extension.
Oh yeah. I remember
And
that.
even then, I was like, man, that guy's got a punchable face.
To the Zen of gaming.
Oh, I'm sorry, I talked over the
So
Zen
let's
of
see
gaming.
what's possible when the
Oh,
most creative
oh man,
minds
you ruined it. That's what everybody was waiting
We're
for.
we're not a really
that-
Zen
That's
website.
that's what I remember Peter Moore for is the
Let's
Zen
begin
Gaming.
by stepping inside the incredible world of Lost Odyssey, a new game under development from the legendary
this was a good game.
Hironobu Sakaguchi.
All right, don't
the
tell anyone, but I
creator of the
tried
original
playing it. I
Final
couldn't get
Fantasy
through
series.
an hour. I gave up.
You didn't like it? Was it too slow?
Yeah, I guess I don't think I was in the right headspace for something so unbelievably boring.
When did you play it? Like, was it recent or was it when it like came out? Oh man, this music! I'm getting goosebumps. I love the music in this game.
Yeah, I played it. I played it a few months ago.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I played it at launch. I beat it at launch, and I'm not gonna lie. Certain aspects, especially when you add in like the technical issues, like the loading and stuff, it was polished. It was good, but it wasn't like without faults.
Yeah, I
and-
saw the quality. It just didn't grab me at all after playing through the beginning of it.
And I can see that because the beginning starts off slow. It's not even like until a few hours in when you get like your third or fourth teammate or whatever you want to call it, that the story really starts picking up and getting good. It's odd how, because this game had the dreams, I think they were called. They were like the flashbacks, and you know it's interesting because I think some of that was real time. But
Either way, that was a pretty big deal.
So
I
to
think
create
at that time.
Oh, yeah.
experiences that
Them getting
transform reality, well, that's
Having the father of
really
the
the
Final
love transferring
Fantasy,
medium.
even
To
though
ensure
the
that the
dreams,
next generation
what I was
delivers
referencing just a second ago, the
every
dreams,
game is
the
built
stories
on
in the
core
dreams were almost
essentials.
better than the core story of the
A
game itself.
foundation of requirements that every title must have before it can ship
Oh.
on the Xbox 360 platform.
This is he talks about the
These
requirements that
essentials
they
include a
drop
minimum
at
of
launch.
720p high definition resolution to provide gamers with jaw-dropping visual clarity and fidelity. Many developers are already working on games in 1080i. Every Xbox 360 will be designed for high definition widescreen television and
So,
will support 16:9 aspect
it-
ratio. to
it's interesting
expand the
because,
storytelling
so,
canvas.
Every game is supposed to be
Let me just make
720p.
very clear,
Every game is supposed to be
these
16:9.
games
Every
will
game is
also
supposed to have
look amazing on
anti-aliasing.
standard definition
The whole
TVs.
anti-aliasing thing
In
was
addition,
because they had that
Xbox
ED
360
RAM, and it
provide
was
anti-aliasing
quote
that
unquote
gets rid of
free.
what we all call
The MSAA was quote the
Well, you know what, with
anti-aliasing was
Xbox
free.
360, the age of the
And little did they
Japanese
know
is
that during the course of this
superseded
generation,
by smooth,
that type of
lifelike
anti-aliasing
visuals
would be
of
dropped
cinematic quality.
because it did not
To be
work
truly
well
cinematic in
for
the next
deferred
generation,
rendering that would pick up
sound
this
becomes
generation.
incredibly
And
important.
It's so interesting how they got a lot of things right, but some things they got wrong. And it's also funny how 720p was like a standard, but PGR3 was 600p at launch. So like right at launch.
I didn't even remember that. I had no idea I was playing anything under the given resolution back then.
There's no doubt that certainly it was
speak of the devil, PGR3. Press kits or whatever, because back then the press you couldn't play games on a retail 360. You had to have like a press type 360, and then you would download it. Yeah, they're kind of like debug units for the press, and you would download games for like reviews from a press exclusive like store, and their press units also allowed them to take frame buffers screenshots, and so the press were posting screenshots of PGR3, and then that's how they figured out it was 600p.
Still the best racing franchise of all time.
And then some press people sold their 360 press units, and then random people were getting access to all those networks, and that's when they stopped doing.
Well, that's how GoldenEye got leaked. It was already it was briefly up in that market. Someone downloaded it and had it stored on that press kit, press unit. Man, this is all pre-rendered, but they get pretty damn close with PGR4. The frame rate that looked 60, but when it comes to the lighting, I also remember with PGR3 they made a huge deal of the cube mapping, and then I remember it might have been London or something. There was a map that had a bridge, and that bridge alone had more polygons than entire maps in PGR2. I'm getting so many technical, so many nostalgia.
The stakes? How about $1 million?
Oh yeah.
In the final
They're talking about the tournaments and stuff.
16 finalists go head-to-head for the $1 million prize. And with spectator mode, 250,000 fans will log on to watch the competition.
Spectator mode was a real thing. They never had any tournaments over it, but
I don't remember ever using it.
That was something I had on all the time.
So let's change gears here.
Like if I wasn't playing a game, something like spectator mode in PGR3 was.
Ubisoft has been at the forefront of the quest to create realistic environments.
Because it looked amazing.
They're always pushing the platform to limit, and now with Xbox 360, they have all of the horsepower they need to deliver an experience that will place you completely in the moment. Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon 3 drops you in urban warfare at its most intense.
This is the later renamed Ghost Recon Advanced Warfare Fighter, or GRAW.
Yep, I bought this one.
Did you know there was an OG Xbox version of this?
Let's do some war crimes, boys.
What's up?
I said, let's do some war crimes.
Now, the final game ended up looking better than this.
Yeah, a lot better.
I remember it looking better, way better.
But you didn't. It also didn't have the gun camera, like the gun view. The PC version did. The PC version had this. It was exclusively that type of view.
Yeah, it was third person, right?
Version,
was it?
What's up?
Was it over the shoulder, or was it like a third person?
Yeah, it was over the shoulder like this, and then you can zoom in, and it was. Did either of you guys play the OG or original Ghost Recon games on the PC or Xbox? Mm-hmm. So you know how it was basically just a reticle on the screen? That's what it was. Like, so you had this over the shoulder. It was pulled back a bit, but you would have this over the shoulder, and then when you aim down the scope or the sight, it just zoomed into the OG Ghost Recon view.
Yeah, this was actually one of. That was one of the first games that made you go, holy crap, we're in next gen. If you remember,
Yes,
that came
yeah.
out. I think it came out a few months after launch, right? Like early
It came out
next year.
Marchish. Basically, there was like the
2006.
trifecta of next-gen games. There was Fight Night Round 3, Oblivion, and Gra, or Ghost Recon.
Yep.
Those three were the ones that was a first wave of next-gen goodness in 2006.
It gives me great pleasure.
It's funny. I saw the hard drive on the top of the system, and it's like like that big. And what was it, like 250? They weren't very
20.
big.
It was 20 gigs.
Yeah, 20. And then I pulled this out of my Series X. This 1 terabyte of solid state SSD. It's probably not even that
amazing.
far off price wise.
Oh, you guys remember the sweat? The sweat.
Yeah, the sweat and the cloth physics.
Do you remember the commercials that would come out? There was just all about the sweat. Yeah, and the cloth physics. You're right. That was a new thing. I used
Now
to play
it's interesting
a lot
because you
of
watch this
NBA.
gameplay, and it. But then you have this. You have this one single character model, and all the cloth animations are all exaggerated and everything. The game did not look like this. Like, who is that? Is that Shaq?
Yeah.
It's a really poorly done check. Yes.
Yeah, that,
It's like
that one
Shaq.
is.
Shaq's porn stunt double.
This past week on MTV, we shared with you a title that we're wonderfully excited
Wait, the
about.
MTV thing
One
was
of
only a
Rare's
week
premier
ago?
titles for the launch window.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
it was.
okay.
Zero.
Mm-hmm.
A game that
You
will
said this past
redefine
week,
the
right?
multiplayer first-person
Yeah.
Yeah, a week ago.
genre. This next title from Rare represents an important leap forward in game development, combining dynamic puzzles, immersive combat, enormous environments, innovative storytelling,
It's
and
Cameo,
really,
right?
really,
Yeah.
really
I
fun
never
gameplay.
got very far in Cameo.
Let's look at a title
No,
that
It
neither
looks
did I.
real nice
I-
on the Series X.
and have stronger appeal
What's up?
to the broader
It looks
gaming
nice on the
audience.
Series X. I played a little bit of it.
Oh, yeah,
I never
it's
beat it.
gorgeous. It's 4K. Looks gorgeous to this day. And just like Pete, a lot of people like to point out the parallax occlusion mapping in Perfect Dark. Like everyone, the people talking about the bricks on the wall, for example. But Cameo had similar effects. And I would say it looked better as a launch title. And I remember the developers at Rare talking about how they were able to go from like 200 characters, like in that army scene, to like 4,000 and stuff like the leap from the OG Xbox, because this was originally... Did it start on the N64 or GameCube? I want to say N64.
You just reminded me. I remember that was a big deal at the time. The amount of characters you could stick on the screen. Remember that was a new thing. You couldn't really do that very much in the previous generation.
The amount
That
of
was
characters
a
and
sign of power.
oh yeah, the amount of characters and the physics, right? Like those were the two real selling points. Oh, Call of
Now, the
Duty
one
2.
thing
I bought this at launch and loved it. Absolutely loved this game at launch.
And it surrounds you with
This is when
battlefield
Call of
sounds
Duty
that are
wasn't.
so real.
Yeah, it wasn't just.
Still think this is the best World War II Call of Duty 2 or World War II Call of Duty to date.
Let's take a look at
Yep.
Call of Duty 2.
I played a lot of this at launch as
On
well.
Xbox 360.
It was this and Perfect Dark Zero, I think, were the two games everybody played at launch on Xbox Live.
I remember at launch people were pseudo disappointed with this because this looked like a high-end PC game on your console. I mean, it was impressive because to get similar performance and fidelity on a PC, you had to have a big beefy rig.
The smoke physics were. Remember that was the big thing about
Yeah.
this. Like the smoke was something you never saw before on the console.
The thing that always got me with Call of Duty though was you could eventually, once you played a level enough, you found the marker, the hidden marker on when they stopped spawning.
Oh
So
yeah,
for me,
the
it
monster
just
closets
became
or
this
spawn closets.
It just became this. Okay, I got to get to this point now. Okay, I got to get to this point now. It was never, because it was always so annoying. They just kept spawning. Eventually, I couldn't take it anymore.
that was an issue until, God, I mean, they still had that in Modern Warfare.
Yeah, for a long time.
I want to say Modern Warfare 2, they finally dropped
some of these
it.
frame rates, holy shit. Like,
frame rate does not look good in this.
yeah, it's been like 5 at some points.
And I remember the multiplayer for this being broken as all living hell. Like, it supported 8 players, if I remember correctly, but if you had anything more than 6, the lag and the frame rate was just horrible. We should do a community play in that.
that frame rate was
See how well it runs on the Series X with 8 players.
Role-playing game in the launch window.
The crazy thing is you could still play that online.
Role-playing games ever.
Came out in 2005 and you could still play it online today. It's amazing.
You know,
Still
they've
trying
had
to
a
get host
decent
advantage.
they've had a decent lineup so far. For some reason,
open-ended worlds ever created for a video game.
right? Like they've had some.
Well,
pretty good games.
it's not been the game so much as if you actually just watch the trailers for the game. Some of them have really bad performance, and I remember that always.
Yeah,
being
that's
the thing.
true.
The games were great. Like, the lineup was good, but they just looked rough.
Yeah,
And plus,
that's true.
you got to remember that at this E3, they still didn't have final dev kits. They actually had some dev kits that were like Macs or with NVIDIA GPUs. I mean, developers still did not have final dev kits when the E3 hit.
Generals and kings have knelt.
I almost want to say they didn't have final dev kits until a few months before launch.
But a darkness.
You could even say that right now they still don't have final dev kits for the series consoles.
They don't. They're still waiting
Yeah.
for features to be turned on.
Well, supposedly the spring update was a very big one, and maybe that's why things like Starfield are pushed back a bit, so they can really take advantage of it and be like, hey, we're back to having
So
this
wait-
hardware that we're not used to using it, so we got to give them time.
So I think this was my first next-gen moment. Wasn't this the first out of all the 3 games you mentioned? When you walk out of the
Fight Night
when you
Round
walk
3 was first. Fight Night Round 3 came out at the end of February, I believe.
I remember when you first walk out of that dungeon in Oblivion. That's what it hit you. It's like, okay, we're in next gen now.
Yeah, when you get out of that cave from the prison, and you open that gate, and there's like a river right there and a forest. You're like,
That looks
wow,
real
like,
good.
especially coming from Morrowind.
And close shut the jaws of oblivion.
This was a huge step up from Morrowind.
You had Captain
does that-
Picard.
Yeah, does anyone else think that every time he says Jaws, he says drawers?
Let me guess the folks at Take-Two are somewhere over there.
Or is that just me? I guess it's just me.
Yes, indeed.
Oh, Take-Two published it? I totally forgot
Yeah,
about that.
2K published it. And it's crazy because Ghost Recon, well, he just said launch window. But all of these were, I think all of these games were targeted for 2005 launch. Because I think back then the quote-unquote launch window was until the end of 2005. But a lot of them got delayed.
I always thought it was a few months after. I mean, they came out by March, so that was before the
Some people
Oblivion
seem
did
okay
get
with
delayed
saying
by a few
10 months
months.
as a launch window nowadays.
Who knows the launch window?
Supposedly we're still in the launch window, and Horizon Forbidden West will count,
Well, we're still playing on dev kits.
and Halo. Well, I mean, you could say that Microsoft really hasn't launched anything.
This was the jaw-dropping moment of the conference.
Glorious civilization.
You know,
Gears of War.
but this
Jaw-droppingly
wasn't the
brown.
talk though. Like this impressed people. Like this gave off a good first impression. But Gears wasn't the talk of the show or anything. It did. I don't think it really garnered much attention until 2006. Because there wasn't even a
Wasn't
playable
early
demo or
Gears
anything.
really different?
What's up?
I remember that the initial artwork and stuff for Gears was very different than what it ended up being.
It had some
Yeah,
downgrades graphically.
see how different he looks.
Look at how
he looks,
Marcus looks.
Yeah, that's what I remember. He looked complete. He looked so bad.
It did have some upgrades and downgrades. Like Marcus looks better, but there were certain, like right there you can see with that car blowing up, there's dynamic shadows and stuff. That got cut from the game. This frame rate looks rough.
Well, the frame rate does, but the game, I remember the frame rate was the one thing that really stood out negative. But other than that, this was, yeah, at that time, this stood out above everything you saw.
And they never showed you just playing it.
No,
it was always those quick cuts, so you didn't really know what it was. Like, what is this going to be? Oh, it's Gears cover shooter. We know that now. But back then, you're like,
you knew it was a shooter, but
what type?
I don't think anyone realized how much of a cover shooter it was going to be. And I think it was TGS later on this year. They had a demo at Tokyo Game Show, and it was still rough, but it was coming along.
For some of the biggest franchises in the video game world, franchises like Madden, NFL football, Madden fan, Need for Speed, and of course FIFA.
Oh Lord!
I am talking, of course, about Electronic Arts.
Are we going to see a punchable face?
No. Oh, wait. Oh, my God, we are!
Yeah, he was the lead of EA back then.
No, I know, but I didn't realize he was going to be on here again. Wait a second. I think I know what's coming up.
I'm here to tell you
I know what's coming up.
You ever watch Kung Pao Enter the Fist?
It's going to facepalm ahead of
I was
time.
wondering if I could give you a little marketing tip.
I thought you were more of a studio
Oh,
guy.
no.
Oh my God! You want to hit this guy?
See,
he's such a fraud. He just looks so.
This is where this is the low point of the show. This is worse than laying on the stage with your denim, with your jacket, and.
I want to introduce you to Backpack Guy.
Whoa, watch out.
Oh my God.
What more her than Jay and I have got, let me
Oh my
tell
God,
you.
it's Jeff Grubb.
So let me guess. Your name's not right?
No, let me
That was
introduce
kinda
you
look like
to
Jeff
Oakland
Grubb.
Raider All-Pro Robert Gallery.
This hurts.
I hope you don't mind.
Back when you saw, you remember when Xbox used to have celebrities on stage like at every E3? They always figured out ways.
What do you mean? Remember when? They still do.
Do they? Oh, I guess they still do. It doesn't feel like it's as.
Okay. What's your favorite game?
I guess you're right.
It wouldn't be an E3 if they didn't have a car or a celebrity on
Right
stage.
answers.
That's true.
So how about this? I'll make you a deal.
They have gotten better. Like, I liked the Lego car, and I thought Keanu did a good job. But
Keanu
those are
looks
exceptions to the norm.
We will have a brand new
Right.
Xbox 360 delivered to your house that morning.
Usually they just have somebody phoning it in up there.
Did they win that game, whatever they're talking about?
Hey, Robert's great.
I wonder.
Get back training camp. Thanks a lot, man. Take Robert
God,
Gallery.
he is just towering over them.
Oh, yeah. He's a big old boy. I don't think he played that much longer after this. I remember he got hurt and retired early.
What is it about Don Matrick? It just
He's just awkward. He's not genuine at all. He doesn't come off as genuine.
For me, have you ever seen the movie Kung Pao Enter the Fist? The lead actor in that is Steve Odekirk. And I always think it's him whenever I see Don Matrick. And it's impossible to take him seriously. Yeah, the lead actor of Kung Pao Enter the Fist. That's him.
EA team's up there somewhere, I sense.
The one that they superimposed the dude's face over?
Mm-hmm. Steve Odekirk.
The Godfather.
Oh, how you doing?
FIFA Soccer.
I totally forgot there was a Godfather there.
You're in America. You're not going to get much for FIFA. Yeah, and not NBA 2K.
Tiger Woods PGA Tour.
Oh, it's
He
going to
might
be in
get
the
some
Sony
cheers.
press conference.
That's
where they
back when
have the Tiger
NBA
Woods
still
demo.
competed with 2K a little bit.
Well, they tried. It was.
Oh,
never good,
remember how fraudulent that picture was? Remember that was like the first thing they showed us for Madden? that
reflect
Oh, yeah,
screenshot,
that-
and
that
then
was-
the game,
well,
the
no,
game
there was
looked
the-
nothing like that.
We have a montage of imagery.
Was it
captured
here or
6
was it at
followed
the
by gameplay captured from Need for Speed Most Wanted.
what do you call it? Was it this or was it the MTV thing that they had the Matt? Oh, it's this.
Yeah, this is so fake.
Madden still doesn't
Talk over
look
the
this
song,
good.
talk over the song. Yeah, just none of this.
Wait, is this a licensed song?
Assume
this sounds-
everything is licensed when you're on, when you're watching anything and you hear people that. I pretty much just assume at all times that everything is licensed, but I also assume that all of this is really, really fake in CGI.
See, none of that was in game.
No,
That's
Madden
all
is.
fake.
The Tiger Woods looked like it could have been real. That's not real. That. Yeah, like most of this is
kind of like it
fake.
animate. It animates a little bit.
This is
like-
real.
Yeah, this looks crappy enough to be real. I never played the. I remember, didn't people not like 1, but then kind of like 2 for the Godfather games?
I thought they only came out with 1. I didn't realize they came out with multiple ones.
Yeah, and then I think 2 was like their own thing. Yeah, NBA Live didn't look like that.
No. Madden certainly didn't look like this. This-
Madden didn't
Yeah,
look
it looked
anything.
nothing like that.
No.
It still doesn't look like that.
No, it doesn't. And that's and a lot of it has to do with like the post-processing effects. They still just now this is real.
Isn't this the one with the ridiculous, like, live action acting?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Something
The-
Callahan.
The live action was a thing since Need for Speed Underground.
Yeah.
So you had Need for Speed Underground, then Underground 2. Was this the third one? This might have been the third one. Yeah, I think it was in this one as well.
Yeah.
God, this
Is there
frame rate is
there
rough.
was one that was like, it's still. Jeff Gerstmann always talks about it on Giant Bomb because it was infamously terrible.
Whenever I think about this game, I think about like the piss yellow filter.
I think about that for the generation.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
It was piss yellow or brown. It was just.
Yeah.
And eventually, your Xbox 360 launch unit would, if it didn't red ring, would catch up to the yellow color too.
Right.
Yeah, you're right. That was like the that color scheme.
Yeah, that's what I remember. Like most of these, they just. It was never just a couple minutes of playing the game. It was always highly stylized, and you just didn't believe any of it. It's like, these games could be really good, but after this show, I don't really know.
Well, so much of them were so early that they just couldn't even have a real demo.
Yeah.
Like I remember previews for Need for Speed Most Wanted.
Thanks, Don. was
That might have been one of the demos on the showroom floor that was running off of a Mac, and it. From what I remember, the previews was talking about how the frame rate is like it looked noticeably better than the previous gens,
So I think you can
but the
see why we're
frame
so
rate was
excited about
rough.
the future of Xbox 360. All of these games, all of these visuals, all that power in this one box.
Faults of Xbox
Without a
Game.
doubt,
Oh wait,
this is the best team of
Not yet.
developers and publishers working on any game platform anywhere in the world. And with their support,
I just the thought of going
we
back
will
to a
have
time
the
like
best
this when Game Pass
lineup
didn't exist. It
in
would
the
be
history
really.
of video
I didn't
games.
buy many things
Thank you.
because there was just so much freaking money, and it wasn't easy to buy them digital, and I always hated discs. Having a ton of discs around, I can never go back to it.
Thanks, Peter. We are thrilled by the great support
I like
and breadth of
I like to
titles
own
that
discs
all
of
our
like
publishing
some
partners
games.
are delivering for Xbox 360.
Yeah, like I've got the
But-
Ori one
Now,
back there,
earlier
stuff
when
like
Peter
that,
said
where
we
it's
have all
collector's
of the
edition or a nice looking steel
Yeah.
book or
Wasn't
something,
speaking
but not.
figuratively.
Or if it's a game I
not
don't,
everything.
I think I might trade
The
in.
final piece of the puzzle. I'm very excited to announce that one of the world's great publishing houses is creating games for Xbox 360.
Oh,
I'm honored to present.
here it is,
our newest
boys.
partner.
Oh, this was pretty big.
I remember. I remember looking at this and like,
back then.
yeah, like thinking. I was very conflicted at this because I was like, you know what? Like, this is great. This is impressive, but this looks like garbage. Like, this looks like a high-res PS2 game because that's exactly what it is.
Yeah. No, it didn't look that impressive, but the announcement was pretty a big deal back then.
And you know what's interesting? What was that, Jesse?
They'd been wrenched away from the exclusivity that they'd been stuck in for. It really hadn't been that long. How long had it been since they were on Nintendo stuff? And they almost were all.
Wait, when they moved from Nintendo to Sony?
Yeah.
That was the N64 PS1 generation.
Yeah, it hadn't been super long. It's funny now that it's going back essentially to being friggin' everything's PlayStation exclusive from them, but from the Eastern branch.
It had been 10 years, roughly.
Yeah.
Like 2 generations worth of games.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the interesting thing here is, do you guys remember how for MMOs, you didn't have to pay for gold? You were able to play Final Fantasy XI off of the silver account. Because back then, what was it? If a game required a separate subscription, you didn't have to pay for gold.
Yeah, I don't know. I never played I never played this one, so I had no idea.
I think I played.
I was just starting up WoW.
With you tonight at E3, the largest video game event in the world. Square Enix and Microsoft share a vision for the future of gaming and entertainment.
It's kind of a shame.
More money.
They did a pretty good job with Japan to begin that 360 generation.
Oh, they made real effort.
They were pretty aggressive out the gate.
I mean, you think about like Tales of Vesperia. What was that? Sonata something?
Eternal?
I never played it, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
But you know what I'm talking about? Not Tales of Sonata. I keep wanting to say it's like it's a RPG about a musician or something.
That's is that Eternal Sonata?
What's that?
Eternal Sonata?
Yes, that was it.
Never played it. I have no idea why I remember that. But there you go.
But yeah, there was the Infinite Undiscovery, which I thought still think is the stupidest name. Plus, there was that Unreal Engine 3 game RPG that came from Square that was exclusive on Xbox.
Blue Dragon?
What's up?
Was that Blue Dragon?
No, Blue Dragon was Artoon and Mistwalker. It was. Right. I gotta look that up now.
This is something we've dreamed about in the past. I'm also delighted to announce tonight that we will bring Final Fantasy XI to Xbox 360.
That announcement kind of fell flat because they just showed it.
Collaboration between Microsoft and the Square Enix is just
because I remember people talking about how when Final Fantasy 13 was announced and the internet lost its freaking mind, they thought they were coming back out to talk about this game I'm thinking of.
Working with the Xbox team to create new worlds that Xbox 360 will make possible.
I didn't realize Infinite Undiscovery was also Square.
I'd like to share with you a sneak preview of what we believe the future of video games might look like.
Oh, that's right. This was just
a tech demo.
Yeah.
Looked good though. Looked really, really good.
Graphics power.
Hot Mike, you were saying thank you.
Yeah, this looks gorgeous. Like even today, I mean,
Was it any of this in game? I didn't play the game, so.
No, this wasn't. I don't think this manifested into anything. This was just a tech demo. But
Yeah.
I mean, the lighting, the character models leave something to be desired. But
This is some hotel timeshare presentation music.
But yeah, I mean, that you got some nice reflections going on there, some nice light. The lighting really sells that.
And that's
Thank you again, Wada-san and Square Enix, for your support. We are looking forward to working together.
If only you still gave it to
help
us.
define the future of video games. So tonight we are here to herald the beginning of a new era in entertainment. With Xbox 360, we will create powerful partnerships that deliver innovation on a new scale. With Xbox 360, we'll work together to deliver games and experiences that are unprecedented in the history of entertainment. We built Xbox 360 to be the essential product for people who live and breathe video games, as well as for people who've never owned a video game console. With Xbox 360, we'll reach out to new markets across the world where digital entertainment is rapidly becoming an integral part of daily life.
And then with Xbox One, we'll forget all about them. Sorry, Brazil.
Video games will become a true mainstream entertainment medium. A medium where bestsellers are measured not in the millions of
They have been really good about
but
it
in
with
the
the Series
tens of millions
console,
of
so
We have the
it's
passion.
mostly been Series S's everywhere,
We
but
have the platform.
still.
We have the product. We have the partners and the games. And we are inspired. Inspired by a vision that once would have been too audacious, too bold to consider. Our goal? To reach 1 billion consumers. We'll do that because Xbox 360 will be the most powerful platform in the next generation. A platform that combines great hardware, great software, and great services to deliver games and entertainment that will truly redefine what it means to have fun. Xbox 360 is here, and it's on. Thank you very much, and join me at the party.
The Last Remnant. That's what it was. It was an Unreal Engine 3 RPG.
Oh, this is a song.
Wait, no, there's got to be a montage, right? There's
Yeah,
always a
they
montage.
end this one on a montage. I remember this.
Talk over the song.
Was this? Oh, Quake 4.
Yeah.
So
they didn't.
Quake
even that
4
frame rate. Jesus.
came with a port of Quake 2. Okay, and no one knew it at the time because if you guys remember, Test Drive Unlimited. I remember buying that, and loving the hell out of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Quake 2 port on the 360 ran at 1080p 60 before the system even supported 1080p. Because at launch, it only supported... the Darkness.
Yeah, it was an alright game. Jackie Estacado.
I like the Darkness. The only thing that was kind of disappointing was that, like... If I remember correctly, the ending was disappointing of the Darkness. Oh, that looks like gameplay of PGR3. That's what the whatever you want to call it, the Gotham racing TV mode.
Yeah, that's Marcus Ponix.
I'm sorry?
Precursor to that's Marcus Ponix, the precursor to Marcus Phoenix.
Frame City Killer. That Namco Unreal Engine 3 game that got canceled. Yeah, the Japanese developers especially did not... Well, Unreal Engine 3 was not ready. I remember... Silicon Knights, they're the ones that got into... Dead Rising.
Working title. Oh, they stayed with it.
Dead Rising was a big deal back then too. I remember.
Yeah, like Unreal Engine 3 eventually matured enough, but like when they were selling the engine, it wasn't ready.
I watched someone play that on our channel.
That's an excellent game. It's
Condemned. I want to see that come back with today's tech.
I do too.
Yeah. I wish they're doing So whenever I think of like big Melee games, Dying Light was like my favorite one of the last gen that I, off the top of my head. And they're coming out with yet another one, Platinum Edition, but it's still not enhanced. Still. Like the 4th re-release of it, and they won't actually friggin' up the res, so it still runs at like 900p. Looks terrible.
Wait, Dying Light?
Yeah. There's Dying Light Platinum Edition coming out now because they keep putting out more DLC. And that's coming out in like a month or a couple weeks or something. Still not enhanced for the
Perfect Dark
1X
Zero. Look
even.
at how bad that looks.
Yeah.
That looks bad.
There's a reason that half those shots were with a filter on. 99 Nights. I remember there was like 1,000 people on screen or something.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Look at the auditorium. It's all empty. Are they going to end it on... yeah, they ended on DOA 4.
Done.
There we go.
Hey,
E3 2005.
All right. Rob. You know what? I'm actually surprised. Like the lineup of games actually is better than I remember it being. Mm-hmm. I think the reason for that I was expecting it to be worse is I just remember. You remember Sony went after this. Well, Sony went after this, and yeah, I think there was some of that cheese factor in there. I think that hurt their impressions a little bit. Velocity Girl stuck out a lot, but following this, you would get the Killzone 2 demo, the a bunch of those
Motorstorm, I think.
Motorstorm demo. There's a few of them, few games that just looked, they looked like they're a half generation beyond anything you saw there, with maybe the exception of Gears. So so I think that's what it was. It was like that relative. Like the graphical difference between the two shows, it just seemed like they were on different levels.
And it wasn't even just like the clarity; it was also like you saw the actual rough frame rates, and then the faked PlayStation 3 stuff was so smooth while looking better. We're like, oh, it's going to destroy it. And there's going to be no reason to get this.
And that kind of that's where I was coming from in the beginning of this video, where I was talking about they're almost too honest. Because they showed all of this rough footage, all of these rough games. And, when you look at Oblivion, you look at Ghost Recon, they didn't show Fight Night. Fight Night is actually at E3's conference this year. Or, I'm sorry, Sony's E3's conference this year.
That's right. That's right.
And the funny thing is, that looks like the 360 version they're showing on stage at that conference.
Yeah,
anyways.
It looks like the demo that would come out.
Because if you look at the bloom lighting in the stage that they showed in the demo, the bloom looks like it does on 360 and not on PS3, but that's a different story. Anyways, but yeah, you look at you look at Ghost Recon, you look at Oblivion, and those are everything just looked rough. Everything looked like a high-end PC game. Nothing looked quote-unquote next-gen. Even the leap, you look at Dead Rising, that Dead Rising clip or trailer at the end there, and then you look at the final Dead Rising that they launched, I think it was the following June. It was a massive, massive leap in graphical quality. And, I'm happy that Microsoft
like being lied to. People really like being lied to in these press conferences quite often.
Not
some of us.
I don't think they do though, because 2006 proved they didn't.
But we'll have to get into that. You've got to hit the right level. You can't go too far. Like Sony learned, I am going to fake it to where I can actually get it close to instead of way beyond where I can get it. Because like you look at Ghost of Tsushima in Last of Us 1 and 2, they got really close compared to what they used to do, where they didn't get anywhere near it. People don't like being outright lied to. They like being fibbed too. How's that?
Yeah, they like hype. Plus, I don't. Even with those downgrades, I don't want to. I'm hesitant to call them lies, but it's like a goal, and yeah, they may have.
They got more educated with their guesses. This is where we think we're going to get this game to, instead of we're shooting for the moon and we're just, no matter what it actually is going to end up being, we're going to show you the best looking thing possible.
Well, so basically, there's a difference between a target and what a thing is. Like, 2018 Halo was a target. 2020 Halo demo was where it was in development at that time.
Yeah.
So there is a difference there, but yeah, I think to your point, especially when you're looking at the launches of consoles, the number one thing people are looking at is the graphics. They're not looking at everything else. Despite the fact that a lot of times the top games aren't necessarily, always the best looking ones over the course of the generation. That is the number one thing you're focused on at that point in time for those reveal shows, and that from that standpoint, I think that the 360's 2005 show was a miss. Outside of the Gears, I think Gears. I do remember that the Gears of War, I think, gave the 360 fans some hope. It's like, well, that's possible. If that's possible, then other things can catch up, and eventually, a lot of them did, I think it'd be fun to kind of come back to 2006. I don't remember what games were shown in there because it does seem like not all the big games do get shown at E3. Unlike now, like if Microsoft or Sony have a big exclusive, they're going to show those games. Back then, it seemed like they highlighted certain games for their press conference, and then they showed other things on the floor. Because didn't BioShock come out in 2006, or am I mistaken?
No, 7.
Oh,
2000, that was 2007 was like
the year.
Okay, that was 2007.
The year of dreams, because we got Mass Effect, we got Halo 3, we got BioShock.
Okay.
And PGR4.
That's probably the best year in Xbox's history. So, but yeah, I think there was some good games there. But technically, they showed a lot of games that were not ready to be shown in their state, in their playable state. But like the one that really sticks out to me was that Ghost Recon, because that launches in March. So you're talking about less than a year from this show, and it looked like a generational difference almost from what they showed there. I mean, that looked good. It looked better than what you would have saw on the OG Xbox. But it ends up, when that game actually releases, it is one of those next-gen moments.
And if you go back to it now, because it had the unlock frame rate, and it just pins at 60, and it holds up. Especially compared to what that was.
It definitely does. Like you had Oblivion. I would say Oblivion and Gears were probably the highlights in this E3.
I'd agree.
In terms of like graphical showpieces. But
the biggest announcement was probably the Final Fantasy. That might have been the biggest surprise of the show. But yeah, no, I agree with you.
Yeah. Because I don't think anyone expected Square on stage, but like their announced game was a PS2 upres, and again, like you said, like the jump between the launch version of Ghost Recon to what was shown there, it's just a lot of stuff looked like it was a high-end PC game or just not ready for prime time. And I remember a lot of the reviews for the 360 at launch where a lot of the focus was about the potential. Like there was not a lot, like there was really, really good looking games, but when you considered that, what the graphical showpieces at launch were Cameo, PGR3, Condemned, and maybe Call of Duty, and two of those three were on PC. And if you had a high-end rig, you can match it, So like that was still back in the day where next gen was
supposed
beyond
to be
anything you've seen,
Right.
Yeah, because there's always architectural changes and not just a newer, more powerful version of the same architecture like we have now.
Yeah. Oh man, I remember just all the talk of, there were a lot of, I don't want to say issues, but there are growing pains with adopting to the multi-threaded architecture and coding and stuff, because before then, this was you had dual core CPUs in PCs, but those are rare. The 99% of the gaming PCs had like the 5 gigahertz single core Pentiums and stuff like that. And there was Gabe Newell with his famous quotes about how the PS3 was a disaster and how they should have shot for a single high performance CPU instead of this multi-threaded, multi-core architecture. So it took a lot of re-engineering to get the most out of the CPUs. Both of them, even the 360 CPU, because it was like in order execution. You had to use the. You had to like thread it very well to really properly. Like, there's a reason why the launch games did not run all that great. Like, even Call of Duty
Waiting
fluctuates
on the
between.
Tools.
I'm sorry?
Waiting on the tools,
Hey, maybe there's a correlation that's positive.
Well, there was one generation where they weren't waiting on the tools, was the Xbox One, and look how that went.
No, they were.
They were.
The tools were crap at launch because they were. It was DX11, and it was a very ported over DX11.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, you had other issues like Kinect taking up 10% of the GPU time and stuff like that.
And that ESYM setup and
But we'll have to talk about that. We'll have to save that
for
the we'll have to save that stuff for the 2013 show.
That'll whoever's with you on that one, they'll be having
what
a
does
fun
everybody
time.
get? What would you have given this show with everything factored in? What do you think?
I would probably go 6. It's a good lineup, but the actual show, like a 6.5.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would probably give it a. You know what? If Don Matrick wasn't in it, I'd give it a 7. But I'm right there with Jesse that it's a 6.5. Like, it was a good lineup. The showcases, how it was presented wasn't the best, but man, that whole Don Matrick part just.
And then everything he introduced was all BS.
What's up?
Everything he introduced ended up being pure crap, or
Yeah.
What a shock.
Yeah, I'd probably go about a 7. I think you guys are about right. So I only say 7 because the Gears thing did pop, and to be totally candid, if we're even comparing it to last year's 2020 show, we didn't really get anything in-game gameplay that gave everybody that sort of, that's what next gen could be. So they did give you that one moment, and I think for that I would boost it up a good amount for that. And Oblivion also looked impressive, and I think the Final Fantasy announcement was worth something. There was some neat. It was kind of neat seeing some of those features that never happened, or just brought back some nostalgia. But they did go really from a presentation standpoint, they really dragged on. That was a long show. So there's some, and like we just already said, that a lot of those games just weren't ready to be shown. But you know
what though, I gotta agree with you. I think this show, comparatively speaking, was better than the 2020 show from Microsoft, because I much rather
2020 had a really good lineup. It just with the pandemic and how everything was and the stories that have come out after, it really had almost no gameplay. Like, it was just Halo, and that was about it.
No, I understand the reason. We're understanding the reason, but pulling that out of it, the actual results, like for me, like when I look back, it's interesting now looking back at it, because at the time, again, like I think came away not thinking too highly of the show. The Sony show kind of blew it away, even though it was fake. It was a lot of fake stuff that really ended up being the talk of that time, and almost to the point where like everybody just kind of forgot about Xbox until next year. But the thing they do well here is they do give you
a glimpse of the future.
Yeah, they give you. They talk. You see that you see them making progress in Japan. You see, you see Square on stage. You see Lost Odyssey. They still have the relationship with Tecmo at the time. And I think the fact that they were giving you in-game, despite the fact that a lot of it looked rough,
yes,
I think that gave you some believability in what you were seeing with Gears, which does turn out to be a decent representation of what you would actually get. In fact, when I actually played Gears, it was actually, to me, because of the frame rates being smoothed out, it was really impressive. I think it because of that aspect, it actually to me hit better than the initial videos, which were impressive. So so when you put all that together, I think for somebody who's really looking and looking for you, like, hey, just give me something. I am a fan. I'm coming here. I want you to just show me that picture of the future. I think you could get it. Like, in between all the roughness around the edges, you still got you understood what the messaging was. You understood that they were trying to be innovative with the ecosystem, and to me that stuff hit pretty well, even though it was, like I said, long-winded. The idea of it was still pretty cool for somebody who was really into the Xbox Live. And, again, we go back and compare that to last year, and I understand the pandemic was the issue. You really didn't get that. You got one demo that wasn't ready, and then you got a lot of CGI, and it was like you really didn't get a good picture of why this generation was going to this generation was something you needed to do.
It was kind of, when you compare the two shows, it's kind of a pick your poison, right? You either show something that's unfinished,
yep,
and get that kind of, as we saw with Halo. Like last year's show was kind of E3 2005 and I guess pseudo E3 2020 all in one, because you had your unfinished demo that was rough, but then you had a bunch of CGI, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think if Halo was originally scheduled for fall of 2021, I don't think there would be so much concerns surrounding the state of last year's demo. It was only because this thing is launching in a few months, and it looked rough. They couldn't commit to certain game modes. They openly said that ray tracing is coming after launch. Like, it was very clear that game was coming in hot. And then, so, I definitely agree with you that, E3 2005, in a sense, kind of was better, but at the same time, due to the pandemic, and just because, I'm not even going to touch on the pandemic, but I do give Microsoft leeway. Like, I'm not against CGI reveals or trailers. I just think they lean too heavily on CGI. Like, if they were to pepper in more gameplay segments than they did, then I would be okay with it. But at the same time, I don't blame Microsoft from showing so much of their hand, because it's before the system launch. They wanted to give people a glimpse, even though it wasn't, I guess, a realistic glimpse, I guess, if that makes sense, an accurate glimpse of what these games are coming down the pipeline if you invest into their console or their ecosystem.
A difference now is that they had E3, but that's just not it. Like, it used to have to be, we have to be on MTV and set this up for months and months, or we have to be at E3 and get everyone there around one date. Instead, starting September, they get the system out there, and people are using them and talking about it on YouTube and gaming websites with the Series console. So that was when they really sold why this is worth an upgrade. And so it wasn't an option back in 2005. So in 2005, we've got these things. We need to show them because this is the big show. We get one, maybe two a year. So it was a very different marketplace back then.
No, yeah, exactly.
And
I was just going to touch on, like, you hit it on the nail, what I was just going to touch on, because, with E3 2005, it didn't have the exposure that last year's show did, right? So if you showed all of these unfinished games, I don't think it would have been received as well. Even though Microsoft's Xbox's E3 2005, comparatively speaking to Sony's, wasn't received so strongly either. But I think it would have been received even worse now if you basically just showed an entire lineup of unfinished, rough-looking games. Because these types of shows just have so much more exposure now than they did, 15 years ago. So, it is a different time. And again, I don't fault, I have my disappointments with last year's show, but at the same time, I don't fault them for it. They played the best hand they could, is the way I look at it.
I think if they played the best hand they could for being in a situation where they really started investing until 2018 again. So, exactly. Yeah, in order for them to have a better show, they would have had to been all in 2016 or 17 at least. So, but not to get into, last year's show too much. It's just, it was interesting just doing the relative comparison. So, I think overall, about a 6.5, 7 sounds about right.
It was such a different company. It's so funny to go back and look and just see how different Microsoft was. Because, they're so enormous now that it sort of encompasses, every time I think about them, I just think of, Satya Nadella's Microsoft and what it has become. And then you go back and you look and you're like, oh, yeah, there's still some of the same people there, but everything felt different.
They were figuring it out. Like I said, they were trying. They were my mom trying to be cool when my friends came over.
Yeah.
And they hadn't yet figured it out yet. They needed some more coaching but overall,
it's less forced.
It is.
That makes sense.
It still is. It's still some good nostalgia though. There's still some good feelings coming from those early years. Seeing those blades again was pretty cool. It'd be neat to have that option.
You can set it as a background behind your UI.
Maybe that's what I'll do.
I don't see them ever adding the blades as a background like they kind of have with the OG Xbox background now, because
there's one that
then
looks
you'd be
like
really
blades.
having people like, we want this back.
No
one really wants the OG Xbox dash.
No, it's just the nostalgia.
It's
this nostalgia of it. That's it.
Yeah.
But they've got that one that's got those curved lines that looks like the blades for the dynamic backgrounds.
But
they do have one.
Those curved lines are blurred. They're soft lines. I want that background with the hard lines. I can when you look at the preview, I'm right there with you. It looks like the hard line, hard edged rings, but then you implement it and it's not what the preview looks like. It looks good still. I'm definitely much happier with Microsoft's approach and presentation style now. Don Matt, or oh my God, I almost said Don Matrick. Phil Spencer, I think he comes off much more genuine, less marketing, even though, that's always going to be a part of it.
He's a CEO who has posted on our forums twice.
I know. I know.
He's responded to me on Discord when I've sent messages and said oh, thanks. And that really means a lot. He just seems like a nice guy as much as someone who's in that position can be. And it really feels like it. It's weird.
It's the difference between him being, God, I'm, this is probably the wrong thing to say, but he is almost like the closest that an American video game CEO is coming to Iwata. I know that's a high bar to hit, but Iwata prided himself on being a gamer in his heart, and I get that same impression from Spencer. He's the one that when you have him on your friends list, he's playing video games.
Yeah,
a lot of times it's Destiny 2.
He's playing Psychonauts right now.
Question of taste aside. But, he is a legit, you can tell he's a legit gamer, which goes a long way.
All right, so we got to set up the next one. Do you want to do that, Mike? Kind of talk about...
Yeah. So, tentatively, I'm just gonna set realistic expectations here. We're gonna try to do E3 2006. I can't guarantee it. I'm having issues. You know what? In the internet, if you can find us a quality version of E3 2006 Xbox, please send it to us. Post it in the comments. We're going to try to get E3 2006 next. And not sure who's going to be part of that, but just like this, it's going to be a great show.
It'll probably be some of the other you had me at hello people, because we're all buddies.
Yeah. No, yeah. I got some ideas. So
the 2006 would be fun because that's probably the start of maybe their best 18 months in gaming, for Xbox. If you go from mid 2006, that E3 up to the end of 2007, which I think we'll probably see some of the games that will be in launch in 2007 in that show. Like, that is really the heyday. That is when the whole thing turned around and they became where it became obvious that they're going to be in that for the long haul, at least until Don Matrick would mess it up. But
was Project Natal 2008 or 9?
I think it might be 8. I think Matrick was 2008, right? So I feel like it came in with him.
Think Matrick was 2008.
Yeah.
Because I think I remember Peter Moore leaving shortly after 2007 E3. And 2007 E3 was a great E3. But yeah, the plan is to have 2006 E3. It's I'm not going to say much about it because I remember a lot about that E3. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Jesse?
Yesy.
Abe, thank you guys.
You are very welcome.
Hell yeah.
Thank you for having me.
It's good times.
But yeah, we'll definitely check you guys. We'll see you guys at the next video. Later, guys.
Later.